Hello and welcome to another Doctor's Assistant 1 video, and today I'm doing another Doctor Who Big Finish review. I'm doing a Doctor Who Big Finish review on the Silurian candidate. Now, of this recording, I got it yesterday of this recording. It was my birthday yesterday, so yeah. But if you haven't seen that new news video, I did. I got this for my birthday, so yeah. The new news video being a video going over some of the stuff that I got for my birthday. So yeah, I adore the cover. You know, it's got Silurians, 3 Silurians even, dinosaur, cool robot. It's got Ace, it's got Mel, and then it's got Mr. Sylvester McCoy there, looking badass. It's got the sort of banner, the more recent new design banner there, with the Sylvester McCoy image of Sylvester McCoy, like in the Time Vortex, written by Matthew J. Elliott, Silurian candidate, who's in it, and all that, like the actors, or the main actors, the Doctor Who logo. And I love all this because it's like the proper old school sort of latter end of the 80s really run of the show, you know, Sylvester McCoy sort of logo and typography and all that. Love that. I just love the design of it. It's all cool, like all nicely green, and then it meshes nicely with the sort of sunset sort of stuff at the top. Now, I'll be honest, I think if you listen to the trailer, I don't think Mel is in any of the trailer. I don't think, because I didn't know that she was even in this story until I got it and then looked at the like cover thing in it, and then I was like, it has Mel in it. Not that that's a bad thing, but Doctor Who Silurian candidate, and then 229, so it's the 229th release in the monthly range. Big Finish, so therefore it's the most up-to-date or most recent release from the monthly range that I've got in my collection. Synopsis of the story, the cast, how long it is, which is 120 minutes, also 200 hours, the disc, the other bit of the cover, and that, so yeah. What did I think of Silurian candidate? Well, I really enjoyed it. This is my 4th Sylvester McCoy story that I've got in my collection. It's the 3rd one that I've reviewed now. The other 2 I've reviewed are Unregenerated and Live 34. I have yet to listen to Night Thoughts and I'll review that one. And that one's been on my radar for some time now. And that, I think, for me, I think some of the more modern releases or newer releases from the monthly range are easier to listen to because they've really perfected their craft. I'm not going to lie, some of the older ones are still a bit iffy in terms of the audio design, not even just the audio design, but the amount of sort of concepts some of the older sort of monthly range stuff isn't as sort of well whittled down. It's almost like they don't, or they didn't anyway, sort of refine them as much, for me anyway, but then that's just because I haven't really, I don't know, I haven't exposed myself to a lot of the older catalogue, but then by the same token I haven't sort of exposed myself to a lot of the modern catalogue really. It's just easier for me to listen to, ideally. And the Silurian voices, oh my god, they are superb. They are just straight out of Doctor Who and the Silurians. I love them, I adore them. Sylvester McCoy is on top form here. If you're any bit the Sylvester McCoy 7th Doctor fan, you will probably love his performance here. He is just sort of good old Sylvester McCoy 7th Doctor, you know, this arch manipulator. You definitely get this feeling that he's got this alternative motive, or ulterior motive behind him as to what's going on. Ace and Mel work really well together and actually have quite a few decent interactions together, which I was surprised by. I thought that there'd be conflict between them, but if anything, there's this sort of respectful sort of friendship there, if anything. You know, where Ace is very much this sort of child, Mel is probably the mum, and then, if anything, I wouldn't say the 7th Doctor's the dad. I'd definitely say he's just the sort of detached grandfather-like figure. Not so much as in that's the role he takes. He just is so sort of emotionally unavailable in contrast to those two. Whereas, as I say, like, Mel is purely the sort of rationale and sort of logic, and but also she's rational and is the rationality, or has rationality and logic and intelligence, but is also really compassionate. Whereas I feel like, if anything, Ace is quite the opposite, unfortunately. She's very much the sort of less intelligent out of the two of the companions, but she's definitely the more sort of... She's sort of the, I've got this gut feeling, let me do this sort of thing. And also, she probably pulls rank over Mel, in the sense that she's the one who's been with the Seventh Doctor the longest. And then that leads to some really interesting interactions between Mel and Ace, because at the beginning, that's how the story begins, really, with these two characters having sort of dialogue between each other about, maybe, Mel, this isn't the same Doctor you once knew, because Mel only knew the Doctor, or the Seventh Doctor at least, in the TV show in season 24, i.e. the clownish Doctor, whereas Ace has seen him be clownish, but be a bit darker in but have that darkness and dark streak in season 25, and then in season 26, he is just completely sort of the arch manipulator, the stuff with the hand of Omega, even though that was in season 25, but, and the whole sort of Ace sort of trilogy, so Ghostlight, Curse of Fenric and Survival, that sort of stuff, and that happened. So, yeah, I think there's definitely three different versions of the Seventh Doctor, the sort of clownish one, the sort of less clownish but still fairly clownish and dark Doctor, or more serious Doctor, and then there's the arch manipulator Doctor, and here we have this arch manipulator. I could easily see this story as well working superbly if the show had continued into its 27th series and or season, because I think the reason as to why I love this, or quite like this story, is because the Seventh Doctor is this sort of diplomat and or this sort of, sort of arch manipulator, and you need someone who is willing to, or is more complex a Doctor than just, say, the Tom Baker or not John Pertwee, but the Tom Baker archetype of, I'll just save the day, and I'm just this hero type archetype, or character arc, or characterization, because, yeah, that's good when Sylvester McCoy or the Fourth Doctor are reversing the Daleks, but the Silurians are more complex. They mirror us, and that's what I love about them. And the core concept of them, and that is what I love about them, which is that they are a reflection of human society. There's scientists, there's the military type, there's the ones that are stuck in between the two, that might have an emotional connection with the military type, but see an ego be, and therefore be clouded by that, but also be able to rationally think maybe science is the right way about going it. It's got dinosaurs, for fuck's sake. The story has got dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are cool. It's got, robots in there, which are a handy device. It's got this political sort of thing to it as well, with the whole sort of, for God's sake, president sort of thing, President Trump sort of theme with it as well. So again, it feels very 70s Doctor Who, with a political sort of story, but again it works with the Seventh Doctor, because again I think that's why I have a soft spot for Battlefield, because it's very much him being stuck between two factions battling it out, and that's what I love when the Seventh Doctor's stuck between two big forces trying to, brutally bash each other's heads in, because he is the one who will say, there is no battle here, and just yell out in the middle of a fight, that you should just put your weapons down and talk, and he sees the light in both sides, and the pros and the cons in both sides, and does try and be this sort of diplomat, although the way Ace goes about it and the way she tries to uncover increments of what's going on, the Doctor can see the bigger picture. He's drip feeding bits of information to Ace, but in doing so, if anything, it pushes Ace away. And Ace has this wonderful line about, you're 900 years old, Doctor, and yet you still don't feel like you can trust me, or you can trust people. How insecure are you? And then he just says, well, and then she's always like, I always feel as though I have to prove my worth and prove myself to you, when's this gonna end, sort of thing. She says something along those lines, and then the Doctor just says, well, I'm just testing you, or I expect what's expected of you. I never expect too much from you, because I know what to expect from you, because the future is bright, Ace. Which it was really interesting, because again, like, no wonder he can't get attached to Ace or Mel, potentially, because he might know how they end up, for all he knows, for all we know, he knows that Mel potentially dies, maybe. I don't know if she does, but he does, and if you had that foreknowledge, wouldn't you be detached by the person who's right in front of you? Because essentially, they're a ghost, which is an interesting little concept that Hyde, I think, the Matt Smith story tried to do once, which I didn't feel like it was explored to its full potential, but, and again, you get, all sorts of stuff with the Silurians aren't in it as much as they could have been, but when they are in it, they are well utilised, so, quality over quantity. Again, the voice is superb and I can just picture them really well. Again, it's got dinosaurs, it's got some other side characters who I didn't think were too bad. I think my only major criticism with the story would be that parts 1 and 2 are set in one place, and then parts 3 and 4 sort of go across to this other place and then start going into this other sort of storyline, sort of idea, and it just feels a bit ham-fisted or a bit rushed. It could have been dealt with a little bit better. It's weird. Although it's really long, it still feels it still feels a little bit rushed at times, but it just feels like there's a lot of dialogue. That's really what this is. If you like sort of a drama sort of piece, if you like Doctor Who does sort of political stories, ergo it has a lot of story and a lot of drama. There's a lot of character pieces and a lot of dialogue between characters and a lot of interesting stuff. There's some decent humour here and there, sprinkled in here and there. There's some really good character sort of tension moments, with Ace with a gun, or Mel being pinned down by a robot, or the Seventh Doctor just not telling anyone what his plan is, and again, that makes you as a listener uncomfortable, because we see the story ideally through the companion, or at least I did through this, primarily using Ace's character as a vessel as to see what was happening, and if she doesn't understand fully what's happening, nor does Mel, then we as a listener don't, and how can we trust the Doctor? And there's this thing about him having this document from this other race of people who gave him this document to say that he does control the Earth, or have the right to do what he wants with the Earth, which I thought was really interesting, because then it's like, if he just wanted to let the Daleks, blow up the Earth or something, hypothetically, then how is he any better than the Daleks? Do you know what I mean? Like, if he has, even him having that power surely makes him kind of a bad guy in that scenario, and it's not until sort of the latter end do we fully realise what his plan is. But again, this is who the Seventh Doctor is, or at least this iteration and version of this Seventh Doctor anyway. In his timeline, he is this character who does hold his cards very close to his chest, and that is very aggravating, because it's not very Doctor-like, or at least it's not very like any of the other Doctors. The only other Doctor who ever did that was like William Hartnell, and if anything, when people go back to his Doctor, and that he isn't very Doctor-like. No one ever says, oh yeah, he's like the 8th Doctor, or he's like the 4th, or he's like John Pertwee's Doctor, or, the 5th Doctor. The only other Doctor who's remotely close to the 1st Doctor is probably the 7th, in how much he sort of knows things will maybe eventually go the way that he anticipates even, because he is this sort of arch manipulator. He does sort of manipulate things into this way where he knows the consequences of what's going to happen, and how it should happen, and why it should happen, and what shouldn't happen, and why, and whatnot, and that in itself can be very aggravating for those around him, and those around him do get hurt, and there's a few deaths here and there. It's mainly just androids, but It is a very good story. I would easily give Silurian Canada a 9 out of 10. It's easily one of the best Sylvester McCoy stories I've listened to. As I say, it's just that sometimes my attention span sort of petered out, and that my attention was pitted out and faded out at times, because there is just so much dialogue, and that, I think if you're a massive fan of the Silurians, a massive Seventh Doctor fan, then you'll enjoy this one, or a fan of political stories, then you'll enjoy this one. But if you want more action, you want more sort of traditional aliens, and that, like the Cybermen or the Daleks, then this is probably not the one for you. Or you're not a fan of the Seventh Doctor, then you might not want to buy this one. But again, if you're really into character pieces, or finding out more of, or having more interactions with Ace and Mel and the Seventh Doctor, then this is the story for you. A 9 out of 10. Thanks for watching, comment, rate and subscribe.